Okay. Good morning, world. How are we today? Wednesday morning, halfway through the week, the work week at least. Yeah, so, this morning, what are we talking about? This morning is maybe seen as a not so serious topic. And this is the other topic that I was going to touch on yesterday, but then I ended up talking about the other stuff too long. And then this morning, I also heard on ABC News Radio, they were talking about how there was a boom in dinosaur fossils, and being auctioned and things and all that sort of stuff, and talking about some celebrities that have them and basically sort of privately sell them to each other, rich people that have them just for sitting in their lounge room, to flex, look what I've got. And anyway, and I thought that was really funny because, imagine firstly just having a dinosaur head in your lounge room. That's crazy. People are obsessed with dinosaurs, aren't they? Even on kids shows and stuff, it's they talk a lot about dinosaurs, and it's guys, it was so long ago. And anyway, but that kind of is relatable as well to what I was going to say, just because of the childlike wonder, I guess, that dinosaurs and stuff invokes. And so the original topic that I was going to talk about was about how I think it's really funny that we live in a world where think about all the different religions, right? And also indigenous cultures, beliefs of different spirits and different gods and things like that, and serpents in the sky and all sorts of things. We have even our legal systems, our court systems. You have to swear on a Bible. I know you can take an oath now as well, where you can either choose to swear on the Bible in a lot of things, or you can take an oath to tell the truth. But anyway, just the Bible is used, and that's got it has a lot of gravity to it, right? To have your hand on the Bible and swear to tell the truth, it's a big meaningful thing that you're doing. And just inside the covers of that book, it says that it is a book about the supernatural, and the Bible goes on to describe many supernatural events and happenings, and people, and that is the topic. That's what I find amazing, is that we're just every day, waking up to alarms in the morning, getting ready to go about our life, going to our, basically slave jobs, to earn something that we're told is valuable, plastic or paper money. Or not really, but nowadays it's like, credit being put in your bank. And then you have to use that credit that's put in your bank, to like pay for a house for you to have all your stuff in, or a roof over your head, or food to eat so that you don't die, water to drink, I mean, it's kind of crazy that like we live in a supernatural world with supernatural happenings, supernatural God that created you, that created us, that's where our souls come from. And yet we wake up every day to our alarms and go to our slave jobs to earn that credit so that we can have a house and food. You know what I mean? Like, it's really crazy when you think about that. And I just wonder, like, do other people sit around, like, ever thinking about stuff like that? Like, my partner and I, we've talked about that. My partner and I are very similar about, stuff we think about. But I just think, like, it should be, like, really more focused on, like, why is it that every day we go through life and, like, we get caught up, don't we, in, like, stuff that we think is so serious, stuff that we think is so important, all the problems of the world, dramas and relationships, and just all that stuff, and like comparing with each other, or competing with each other, or ticking boxes in society that other people have kind of deemed super important. Like it just seems sort of ridiculous. It just seems sort of crazy that that we're not more like just like living in the awe of the magicalness that is this place. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't wake up in the morning and hear the birds outside and just sit there in amazement of God's creation there. Do you go outside, when you're getting into your car to go somewhere to your job or whatever, do you like look around at nature and be in awe of that, of God's creation? Do you watch the sunrise in the morning and think about what this place is? And then when you think about the supernatural things that happened, in the stories of the Bible, and obviously that's what I'm, what I believe in, what I'm affiliated to, but even in other people's cultures, other people's religions, I mean, aren't there like also some crazy stories and some crazy characters, like, supernatural things, like, so, like, how can we all have these stories, and yet be like walking around just like sort of like just being told what to do, and like being told you need to go be a slave so that you can feed yourself, so that you can, like, survive. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, it's just crazy that, like, we know something and yet we behave as if we don't know that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's sort of what I sometimes get a bit caught up on, because it makes me feel a bit tricked by this world and, you know, by governments and all sorts of stuff, because it's like, you know, they've really done a good job in distracting you from, you know, what God is and what God did in this place, and, you know, probably what our true purpose is. And, like, even think about, you know, I was saying to my partner this morning, like, think about even, like, you know, families that have both parents working full-time jobs, and, like, you know, basically, like, barely spending much time at all with their children. And, you know, your children aren't children forever. You know, there's a lot of kids who, like, don't really know their own parents, and parents who don't know their own children. You know, like, because you're told you've got to go be a slave for 40 hours or more a week, you know, to afford a house for you guys to live in, and food for you guys to eat so you don't starve, you know, and then all your medical costs and everything else in life. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like a big trick. And yet the most important thing, those kids, they're like, sort of like second thought. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel really grateful that I've had the time that I have to be a stay-at-home mum. You know, I'm very in tune with all my girls and who they are and what they've got going on, and you know, they're all at different stages and things in life. And no doubt, like, if I was working full time, I would miss so much. I wouldn't be there for so much. You know, I wouldn't be there for them as much. You know, because when you're a parent too, and when you're a mum and you have a, you know, a good relationship with your children, I mean, you're also like their cheerleader too, aren't you? You know, you're also like a counsellor sometimes. You know, you're their person for when they fall over and they need to have a hug, you know. And, like, I've sort of touched on that a bit before too, about, like, when kids put in daycare from a young age, like, they are getting that then from, you know, childcare workers, not from mum or dad. And you know, I understand, I don't want to make anyone upset that, you know, maybe hasn't had a choice but to do that. I understand, because I had to do that too with my first. But it's just sad, isn't it? You know, like, that even from a very young age, I mean, there are newborns in daycare, you know, like, quite young. And I just think, yeah, like, I remember the girl I knew years ago, like, she had twins, and you know, she was like, her profession was, you know, working in a childcare facility, and she had twins, and I can't remember how old they were when this happened, but she ended up putting them in daycare at the place where she worked, and then, like, she went back to work, you know. But to my understanding, she was in a different room. She wasn't in the like baby's room where her two twins were. And I understand, like, you know, there can be, you know, mental health issues and stuff like that. There can be struggles in motherhood, you know, and things like that. And financial needs to go back to work and all that sort of stuff. I understand. But I'm just saying, like, you know, in that situation too, it's like you're like leaving your babies for somebody else to take care of, aren't you? You know, like, yeah, it's just, maybe that wasn't a great example because maybe that was, you know, it was a bit overwhelming having, you know, twin babies, and maybe it was more of a mental health need or something. But I'm just saying that, like, you know, jobs really do take away from you having like quality time with your children, raising your children, you know, just spending enough time while they're children with them. And, you know, then there's other things like, you know, like just living your life. Like maybe it's you don't have enough time, you know, to go surfing or to do painting or something that you are really passionate about. You know, like there's so much in life that you know, like could be doing and that you want to do, you're really interested in. But you don't have the time to do it because you've got to go do your slave job. And here we are, like we live in a, you know, supernatural world where, you know, everywhere you look on the internet is also talking about, you know, the different energy fields and, you know, all this sort of stuff, and natural law and attracting things to you and manifesting and all this sort of stuff, you know, like, I mean, this is the crazy magical world that we live in, and yet, you know, we're just waking up to our alarms, getting in the car, getting into the line of traffic to go to your job, you know, to slave away for 40-something hours a week. You know, you've got to get yourself in a lot of debt in life, you know, as well, which causes a lot of stress. And, you know, you've got to be ticking all these society boxes because someone, you know, government or, you know, just society in general said those boxes were really important. So you better tick them too, otherwise you look like you're lacking, you know. But you could choose to, you know, probably do whatever you want. You know, you could be like, yeah, no, that's not for me. I'm going to do something different with my time and with my life, and with my family. But then you like would probably come across like just a lot of problems, wouldn't you? Like you'd probably come across a lot of hurdles, authorities, with people. You know, people always like tend to have a bit of an issue with anyone they see doing something different to them too, don't they? You know, like my partner and I have experienced that before, where it's like, oh, if you're not doing what we think you should be doing, or the same as me, then you know, I'm going to treat you badly, or I'm going to talk about you badly, or whatever like that. You know what I mean? Even through like COVID, that was like a really a time where it really showed people's characters like that. You know, like I remember there was one girl who I knew from high school, so like years and years ago. And, you know, I remember her saying, because it was like only vaccinated people could go out and go into places and stuff like that. And if you were unvaccinated here, you couldn't go into a shop, you couldn't go like into anything. Like, you were lucky to get like click and collect to your car at some places. Anyway, and I remember her making a comment to me. I can't remember if it was like just on Facebook, something like on a post I made. And she was like basically trying to rub into me that her and her family were able to go to the Christmas tree farm, and they were going to the Christmas tree farm that day to go pick out a Christmas tree, and they were going to have a great Christmas, and that my family wasn't because we weren't vaccinated. Like, that's pretty funny. It wasn't funny at the time. At the time, I was like, whoa, girl. That is a horrible thing to say. But, yeah, now that I look back on it, I think, yeah, well, you just showed your true colours, really, didn't you? Because who says that? But yeah, anyway, so do you know what I mean? Like, in life, you can, you know, just, I guess you can just follow orders and expectations and what everyone else has sort of set out as like rules for how you should live your life. But really, we live in a magical world. We live in a supernatural world. And it's like even the authorities in the world acknowledge that, because they make you put your hand on the Bible and swear on it in court, don't they? And, you know, even for like King Charles to get, you know, like coronated or whatever, to be the king, like, you know, he had to go through a whole, you know, religious procession thing, you know, ceremony and all that, to get married. You know, I mean, I know now you can just have celebrants and stuff, but, you know, that was always sort of a thing to do with God as well. You know, I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like it's understood that we live in a supernatural world, and you know, all these supernatural happenings and stories and things, and yet here we are, just like, I don't know, walking around with the ball and chain on the feet, you know, walking around with the slave cuff around the neck, you know, just being good little slaves, doing what we're told, instead of living in the magical world that we're in. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. This is not going to be a long one this morning. Just some food for thought. Just some thoughts that I have. You know, maybe hopefully it, you know, opens up people's minds, I guess. You know, just, I guess as well, like, it's a reminder of that things aren't as serious as we take them, you know. I mean, people are getting sort of offended left, right and center in the world nowadays, aren't they? And you know, you got to be very careful with what you say to people, and careful what you do, careful how you represent yourself, you know, careful that you're ticking enough boxes that nobody is like questioning your sanity. You know, all these sort of things. But maybe we should also just focus a bit on the magic. Focus a bit on this supernatural place that we find ourselves in, you know, and the truth of that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. And you all have a good day. Have a good Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.